I thought, what does he want? Did you want my scholarship? I mean, so I didn't know. And then there was one day I came out there and I couldn't take it anymore. And literally, I think I blacked out because I got out there and I was in a state of mind that I got to do this. I'm going to end this now. And I went out there and literally I ended it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Hayden Alabama Podcast. I'm Philip.
I'm Shane.
I'm Chris.
I'm Justin.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Bill.
We're here on beautiful Lake Gunnersville.
Not Smith Lake. I messed that.
Yeah, not Smith Lake. And we've had a good day here with Ultimate Angler, and we're here with some pros today.
I've learned some things. I'm probably going to win the next tournament I enter here in Gunnersville, just so you know, thanks to these guys here.
I know where I'm going to fish on the next tournament up here. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to tell some stories. We got some guys that lived a lot of life at the highest level, and we've challenged them to tell some stories. And so they claim they've got them. So now's the time where the rubber meets the road. Go ahead, Chris. Take us away with one.
Yeah, mine, I don't have to look back very far to have a good story, but it goes way back. And, you know, I was sitting here, I know Justin Lucas, he has two brothers, and Justin's the oldest one, I believe, correct?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was the youngest one, and being the younger one in the Lane household, it was pretty brutal. It was a fantastic time, but you always got the short end of the stick. And the best story that I can think of with my two brothers was when they held me down and made me eat dead flies. I didn't like it very much, but I don't even think that I remember back that far. I just know the stories that my grandpa would tell me, that my mom and dad would tell us, you know, going as we've gotten older. But, you know, it didn't stop there. So they built a battleship, and they were pretty proud of their battleship. And I remember all the things they did to me, so I decided to take their battleship and take it apart piece by piece. And it took them weeks and weeks to put it together. But I didn't care because I was mad at them, so I took the battleship completely apart and took all the pieces and scrambled it all back up, and I got put on restriction for that one. So, I mean, I could go into stories that are, you know, long stories.
Yeah, we got questions.
Okay.
Where you go?
So how big is this battleship?
It was about this big. I mean, it took them a long time, and they were so proud that they got it put together. Model. Yeah, there's a model one.
Glue a piece together.
Yep.
Right.
Glue it, put the little flag poles up, all that. I ripped all of it apart.
You heard him say it took weeks and weeks for them to build. How many? Just an estimated time frame for you to tear it all apart.
It took about 4 minutes, I think. It didn't take me very long. And then that's when, you know, we'd put needles in front of each other's beds because we had shag carpet back then. And when one would go to bed, if somebody stepped on it, they would holler, and the other two would laugh. So it was just part of growing up in the Lane house.
You were booby trapped in your own house?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then my sister would get a bunch of candy from my parents. Of course, she was the younger one, so you know, she never did anything wrong. And then me and my brothers would act like we were choking or dying. And if we didn't get any candy, then, you know, we weren't going to stay alive. And she would give us all her candy. It's just part of, you know, growing up in a household of nothing but family and fun. That's what it was.
One more question. The flies. So you didn't tell me, just walk me through how you ate the fly. Like, how did they make you eat the flies?
Oh, they'd hold your mouth open.
Like they'd hold you down.
Yeah. Or tickle you till you opened your mouth and then they'd throw it in
drop in a dead fly.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Didn't stop there. You know, we used to have hamsters and run in those cages. And I don't know if y'all remember, but in those hamster cages, for some reason, there's, in the stuff that you put in the cage, there's hot peppers in there for some reason. And I got one of those in my mouth one time too. Part of it.
Hot pepper out of a hamster cage, dude.
I mean,
That's
were you
brutal.
that mean to your brothers?
I was. I'm sitting there. Luckily, I was the oldest, but man, I kind of feel bad for my youngest brother now
Yeah.
because
Well,
it was probably pretty brutal for him too.
Yeah, but
he said he didn't remember a lot. You know, I don't think it was because it's the time frame. I think it was the traumatization that got him. Like he's suppressed those thoughts.
It's good you can talk about that now, Chris, and get that off.
yeah.
Thanks for getting that off.
So
your
I
chest.
do,
Therapy.
and then this scar right here on the side of my face. My oldest brother, I was in a high chair, and I had oatmeal in front of me. It was too hot to eat. I didn't know this at the time, but he wanted to try to be a nice guy and feed me, and he slapped it right on the side of my face, and the side of my face. And my mom, she's just the sweetest thing in the world, and she told me about 5 years ago, she says, "Does that really bother you on the side of your face?" I said, "No." She's like, "I'll do anything, pay for whatever it costs if you want to get your face fixed right there." I said, "Mother, it builds character. That you guys instilled that in us as young kids. We love it."
Hot oatmeal.
Man.
Oof.
Go ahead. Take it away. Y'all got something to follow that up?
Yeah, how are we supposed to follow that up?
I don't know.
You got two brothers. I'm sure you know something.
I do have
Yeah.
two brothers as well.
Do you?
But I was the middle one. I just got blamed for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, my youngest brother, he was actually in town last week. Came out for the Red Crest event, and him and I used to share a room together. And there was a little hole in the drywall in his room, and I used to tell him that spiders were going to come out at night and get in his mouth when he was sleeping, you know, and in his ears and nose. And my mom would yell at me because he'd be crying. Yeah, you stop. You know, he hates spiders. You've made him deathly afraid of spiders, all this. And so to this day, he's still afraid of them. And he was over last week, and my 7-year-old, he's bad afraid of them, but it's pretty good because my 7-year-old loves spiders. So we're sitting watching the Final Four, and my 7-year-old's got a little Tupperware bucket with like 5 or 6, 7 wolf spiders in it on the living room floor. And my brother's just looking around. He's like, "You guys just let him do this? Like, this is cool with you guys, you know? This is normal." And he's like, he's getting up on the couch a little bit, you know, "Cooper, get those outside. They don't need to be in the house." We're like, "Dude, just chill. They're just wolf spiders, you know, nothing, no big deal." Anyway, he leaves and get a text from him 2 days, 3 days later. He's like, "You know, I've been thinking about it. I really don't know why I'm so afraid of spiders. And after watching Cooper, his nephew, my son, play with those spiders and stuff, he's like, I really just think I've been overreacting for years." And I'm sitting there thinking, man, that's my fault for sure. Like,
I'm sorry.
I tormented him for years with them. But anyway, he might be getting over him a little bit now. 36 years old, finally. So, yeah.
The things that you don't want to last in somebody's life that you do to them seem to be the things that last in their life.
My biggest regret right now with raising children, we're talking about children and siblings. My biggest regret right now with raising children is my 3-year-old little girl was in the bathroom taking a bath, and we got a window right by the bathtub. I went up and I scratched on the window.
Oh,
it
boy.
scared her to absolute death.
Yeah.
And to this day, she's 5 now. That was 2 years ago. She will not take a bath without somebody else, like at least standing in the bathroom because the window's there. I regret it to this day doing that.
And you can't really take it
You
back.
can't take it back.
No, it's like
That
that's
is
done.
probably the only regret I live with at this point.
Yeah.
But I can't take it back.
Josh, give us one over there.
Oh, since we're talking about siblings, I think so. I was the middle child. I just got blamed for everything, like whether I did it or not. But a good story on my end, but something I kind of feel guilty about with my little brother. So he was 6 years younger than me. He was the oops baby that I don't think any of us were expecting. But we would drive. We didn't have money to fly everywhere, so we'd go on one vacation, Colorado, Wyoming. But we would drive there every year. And my older brother and I, it was probably 4 straight years, my little brother would be sitting in the back, and like he just loved animals, like a lot of kids do. And we would like just be like, "Oh, look at the giraffe," or whatever. And so Jesse, my older brother, and I, we would act like we saw a giraffe, and my little brother's like, "Where? And, "Oh, you missed it." And we would do this for like 12 hours. I mean, yeah. And now my little brother's he's in like space stuff. I mean, he's super smart. I'm sure he's come to the realization that none of this was true. But like for years and years, we just tormented him with stuff like that. And so, I mean, that's kind of my story, you know, on the family stuff.
Does he have trust issues?
Oh,
he's like,
yeah,
look, he's like,
100%.
I'm not
Yeah.
looking. I'm not looking, Josh.
Yeah, no, I love him to death. He only calls me when he needs money, but I love him to death.
That's awesome. Now, did mom and dad intervene?
No.
Because usually they'll
No, because
tolerate it.
that was kind of calm for us. You got 3 boys in a car. I mean,
Oh.
hey, anything to where if you're not fighting or something like that, because I mean, that's we were like fist fighters, like reaching over the seat, punching one another. So that was docile. For my parents, were just like that. Just keep playing that game.
Phil doesn't understand the competitiveness between siblings because he's an only child. So when you're talking about fighting, like you had territory, right? My brother and I shared a bedroom until we were 10 or 11
me
years
too.
old.
Yeah.
And right down the bed, there was a line that you did not cross.
Right.
Did you ever have any of those nights where you couldn't sleep because you were kick fighting all night?
We had bunk beds, and so I slept
Oh,
on the top bunk,
yeah.
being the younger one, and my older brother slept on the bottom bunk. And we've tried to do that since then, but he has severe sleep apnea, and usually I can't sleep anywhere within it has to be 2 walls away from my older brother. So yeah, no, we got along most of the time, and we argued about baseball cards and stuff like that. But my older brother and I, like I said, I look back on that game that we played on my little brother, and I kind of feel bad now. But you know, we'll see what happens. I got 2 girls and a boy, so
it's just like
they're gonna do it too. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Bill, you don't have
Yeah.
to follow in line of how you've maybe negatively influenced somebody's life, but you can if you would like. Tell us a story. You told us some good ones last night. I mean, some good ones, but now it's your turn.
Well, you talk about the sibling stuff. I was a middle child as well, and I slept on a bunk bed, on top bunk. Did you ever fall out of them things?
Oh, all the time.
How
did we not crack our head open?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I wake up, I'm on the floor. My mom comes running in. What happened? I'm on the floor.
I don't know. Sleeping. They didn't even put me back in bed either. They literally just put a pillow under me and let me sleep on the floor. I was like, how did I get down here with a pillow underneath my head?
You're going to fall off again. Just leave him down.
Yeah, make it comfortable for the next ball, right? Yeah, no, I antagonize my little brother all the time as well, and you know, to the point that I have pliers that went through my lip here. I had an ice skate up in here, stitches. These are all stitches. Clamshell at the beach over here. Yeah, so it was one of those things. Like it didn't stop. It just got to the point where it was just straight onto the fight. So, but you know, that was good stuff as a kid. I don't think you can do that stuff anymore. You get arrested.
No,
probably.
DHR is like on speed dial on a lot of kids.
Right. That's not. You can't get away with that stuff these days.
Yeah, he's right. I was an only child, so my only window into that was when I would go spend the night with some of my friends who had brothers. I thought they hated one another. I'm used to a family environment. Mom and dad love me, and they're always being nice to me. You go in there, it's like a war zone.
Yeah, it's brotherly love.
Yeah, and I think, but I got used to it too, and I kind of got to where, hey man, that's kind of fun, sometimes.
I'm going to tell one on my brother, and it's Philip may have to cut this because this may cause a divorce on his side because him and his wife are they're competitive to say the least. But this when we were talking about being competitive with your siblings. I went out on a date with a girl and really liked her. She's a beautiful girl and enjoyed it and had a good time. And so I'm talking. And I said, hey, you want to go on the date next weekend? And she looked at me and she was like, well, I don't know. We'll see. And I said, okay. So we've ended up going out on a date again. And I said, hey, you want to go out on a date the following week? And she was like, well, I'm going to be honest with you. I think I'm going to go out, or I'm going to go out with somebody else. And I said, that's fine. And, we just started dating. And I said, who are you going out with anyway? And she looked at me and she said, your brother asked me if I wanted to go out with him. I said, you've got to be kidding me. Could it get any worse than that, right? They ended up dating for like 3 or 4 months after that. It was insane but I was like, man, I could kill my brother. He saved me a lot of headache in the long run, I think. But
Yeah, I think, we talked about the siblings and how the fights I've been through drywall. Bobby threw me right through drywall. I still compete. We still gamble, with each other. I mean, we're on the golf course and it's, $1 a hole. My dad, he wants first, most, biggest when on the fishing side of it. So the whole family competition thing, and you do maybe hate each other. So I would say to the viewers, if you got brothers and you don't like them right now, they become your best friends later on in life.
100%.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing is family, and blood's thicker than water any day. And man, love them because they're the only family you got.
We saw some of that competitiveness coming out today in Chris. I think that was instilled early.
He managed it well, though. I could, when we were like, we need to go back and get another boat. He's like, you do?
This is what I liked.
Like, I've got to stop fishing.
Well, we were wondering, does Justin have to do that too?
That's what Beth said.
You did?
Yes.
When they told Chris, when they said, "Hey," the phone call came in, take these guys back to the boat and at the ramp. Chris puts his rod down, and then there's some turmoil going on in his mind mentally.
Tug of war.
And he picks it back up, and he goes, no, I got to take you.
I was going to keep fishing, and I'm like, no, Justin's got to go back. So we cranked up and ran back, and I'm sitting there the whole time thinking, man, why can't I just switch these guys with Justin's guys? Why can't we meet on the water somewhere? Either way, we got to go back. And the fish were biting. I think you had missed 2 or 3. I had missed a couple. But, you get in, and I know you guys are the same way. When it's competition, when the game starts, especially at this level and the level that these guys play at. And, I mean, you're there till the very end, and you're focused the whole entire time. And I was in that. And then I kind of got out of it.
Oh, you were absolutely in there.
And I think, pretty much had it wide open all the way back to the dock. I wasn't taking it easy.
No.
Yeah, it was really cold. I know that for sure. I like where we kind of segue there into competition, and that is the name of y'all's life. Y'all are competitors at the highest level in your fields. Think for just a minute of moments of competition. You didn't have to succeed, or maybe you did succeed. I'd love to hear about some of your favorite, most memorable moments in competition, if you've got those. I just would really like to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to look very far back, probably in 2012 when, I won the Bassmaster Classic. That was the biggest thing in bass fishing.
I got a picture with the trophy last night.
Yes, he did.
Oh.
Yes, he did.
Hold it up.
And, that it was a life-changing moment. Not only for me, but for my sponsors and for my family. I was able to give back to them all the support and effort that they put into a failing, effort for 4 or 5 years of trying to make it as a professional. You go through those stages when you're trying to get to the top level or trying to stay at the top level. And when you've fallen back, I was wondering, am I going to continue to do this? And, that year of 2012, was a life-changing moment for me and allowed me to continue to chase my dream and to be a professional fisherman.
Do you think, is there a particular moment when that realization came to mind when you're like, this is the make or break? Like if this happened or when this happened, this is the moment that it really turned around for you.
Yeah, it was it was right before the Classic. I actually won a tournament on the Harris chain in January, and that kind of changed it right there. That was the changing factor, because every time I'd get to where, really, I'm going to say it, when you got no money in the bank and you're having to pay entry fees and you're having to do all this stuff and there's no money in the bank and you got to pay travel expenses, I would win a tournament. Like, it would just happen like that. And I was just blessed to be able to win the ones that I did. And then it just kind of escalated from there, kind of found my niche and, went on.
Justin, you have a moment in your competition that you like to relive?
Yeah. I've got, probably a couple things that come to mind. The first one is, I grew up I actually did. I hated fishing until I was 12.
What?
Yeah, I hated fishing until I was 12. Come to find out, long time later, not getting sidetracked here, but my mom was adopted. Her biological father, who I hadn't met for years, was a bass fisherman. And so it was just kind of like in my blood. But anyway, my mom, she had forced me to go to a friend's catfishing birthday party when I was 12. That's how and she forced me. I was into baseball and basketball, collecting baseball cards, probably had Beckett's card. Like, I mean, I was dialed on. I was dialed
high school
on all
card.
that stuff. I looked you up last night, dude. I remember when you played. But I was dialed on all that. And my mom made me go to my friend's catfishing birthday because she had already bought him a present. That was the only reason I went. And I'll never forget watching the rod, getting a bite. And we'd reel in these little catfish. And we actually had like a Dorito-sized family bag. We dumped all the chips out, filled it up with water, and was dropping these catfish in the bag and watching them swim around. I'm like, that's the coolest thing ever. So fast forward, my uncle starts teaching me about fishing. He lived a little ways away. And my grandpa, not the biological one, my other grandpa, my dad's adopted father, he was my grandpa. He was the one. I lived by him. I spent a lot of time with him and everything. He was a truck driver. He hauled lumber up and down California. And he saw that I started liking fishing. He had a little aluminum boat, and we fished out of that. And he saw I was getting real serious. So he actually went out and bought a bass boat, a 16-foot bass boat with a 90 horse on it. And my grandma she was furious with him. She really was. It paid off. So grandma,
Yeah, thanks for the return.
she's in heaven, but we love you so much. So it was a very good investment. But I told Bill this story earlier. So when I was 12, I was 13 at the time, I started working at a pumpkin patch. And I was making money, $5 an hour under the table, picking Indian corn, gourds, pumpkins, all that stuff. Ride my bike to the pumpkin patch, work after school, save up money to buy fish and stuff. And my grandpa and I just started fishing tournaments the next spring. And we went to Lake Berryessa and won $641. And my grandpa never drove the boat, and he never ran the trolling motor. So when we fished together, he let me do everything. He didn't even know how to tie a fishing knot, like a legit one. He just tied that overhand knot on your shoelaces 10 times. Found that out the hard way in a tournament. He lost a 4-pounder and he reels it in. I'm like, Grandpa, what happened? I look at his line, and it's just coiled. I'm like, what knot do you tie? And he's like, that first one on your shoelaces 10 times. I'm like, no, you're not tying knots anymore. So anyway, we won
Demoted.
yeah, we won $641. He gave me $250, and I'm like, I would have to work a lot of hours at the pumpkin patch to make $250. So at that point, like, I loved baseball, I loved basketball. I wasn't ever going to be good enough at those anyway. I knew that, and I literally gave up everything at that point and just went all in on fishing. So I'll fast forward real quick. I didn't win my first pro tournament until 2015, the only time any professional tournament ever went to Sacramento, California, where I grew up. I was sleeping in the same bed at my grandpa's house for that tournament.
Wow.
Where I won, and he was on the levee every morning as we were running down the river, waving to me. So
Oh man,
it's a little emotional for me now
Yeah,
because he
that's
passed away, but it was unbelievable. Like the best ever.
He was cheering you on.
That's awesome.
Dude,
that's
every
awesome.
morning.
Yeah.
So really cool.
Thanks for sharing that. That's a cool story.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck, Josh.
Oh,
That's
so
good, man.
What are we talking about again?
yeah. I mean, I've been bouncing a couple of them. I think for me, kind of what I think I'm kind of known for is like I had some really good games and big moments. And Chris kind of touched on like every time that he needed to do something, he got it done. And I think there's a certain thing with us athletes where we can become like hyper focused. And I think, I don't know what it comes from, but, I think what really led me to this was my junior and senior year in high school. We probably had the team to win state. And I'm really just going to go with my senior year, but I remember I threw 10 innings. I think it was 160 pitches. And we didn't have all those pitch counts and stuff back then. But we were at College Station, and I remember I give up a grand slam. And, like, I didn't give up very many hits, period, in my senior year in high school. But we lose to Round Rock, and I remember just being so upset on the bus, and like just like I remember my high school coach, who's a great friend of mine now, my dad, my mom, just like thinking like, I can't win the big one, and then fast forward, I think 3 years later, I get asked to pitch on 3 days rest against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium, and I go out and shove for 9 innings and throw a complete game shutout and win World Series MVP. So, like, I feel like, you almost have to go through. You have to go through. Well, no, you have to go through those failures, though, and actually get to, like, rock bottom of, I can't do this. Yeah. And then, like, you build yourself back up. And it was a short period of time for me. I mean, I was drafted that year in June after losing in, I don't know, May or something. So I get drafted. I signed late. I go to A-ball. I spend half a year in A-ball, half a year in Double-A. At that time, the Marlins were calling everybody up from Double-A, and I'm in Double-A doing well. They needed a starter. I come up, and it kind of it's 2001. So it's like 30 starts later, I'm pitching in the World Series against the Yankees.
We got the real abbreviated version.
We really did get a Cliff Notes version of all that.
Yeah,
but I want to go back.
All right.
You pitched 9 innings.
Yeah, it's a complete
World Series game.
Mm-hmm.
Just I want to go out there with you when you walked out on the mound for the 9th inning, knowing you've pitched a shutout.
You know what?
What are you?
I was so tired though. I mean, that's the longest that any of us have played. I mean, I'm with the Marlins. We never make the playoffs. At that time, we were coming off of like 2 100 loss seasons. I remember there was a story of like one of our coaches like taking all the players out into the parking lot, and we all just like had like, I mean, nobody had any money. I mean, we had money, but like not like big league money. And he tells us to look around, look at all these cars. He goes, "Y'all aren't big leaguers."
Bush leaguers.
No, he's like, look at y'all's cars. like we were, and then like I said, it's like 2 years later, we're like, and I remember we hired a sports psychologist. His name was Jeff Fishbein, great guy, and he comes in spring training, and he's like, y'all need to see yourselves winning the World Series. And we could not have laughed hard enough at this guy to leave. And sure enough, like, I guess a few of us must have been like, you know what? That's we're going to win the World Series, because we ended up winning the World Series that year. I don't know how we did it. I mean, we were just young enough and dumb enough to get it done, I guess.
Now, Mr. Bill, we've been on the water. We've been on the diamond.
Yeah.
So take us to the football field. Give us one of your moments, one of your favorite moments.
Yeah, so that's interesting, just hearing the stories and how they kind of relate to where you go in life and where you're at. And I think what Josh was talking about, the hyper-focus part and becoming an athlete that can do it and be tuned in and high level tuned in, as Josh was talking about. That's a lot different than just being a player. So a big turning point in my life and my career playing football happened when I went to the University of Pittsburgh. I get a scholarship. I go the first day of training camp and put my jersey on, put my helmet on. It says Pitt on the side, and it says my name on the back of my jersey. It didn't have that in high school. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And you go out to practice, and this at the time, the University of Pittsburgh. I mean, we were a powerhouse. The players, every single position we had were drafted in the NFL on offense and defense. Wow. Dan Marino, Russ Grimm, all in the Hall of Fame now, by the way. Mark May, Bill Frelick, Jimbo Covert, Chris Dolman. I mean, Hugh Green, Ricky Jackson, another Hall of Famer. Every position we had on offense and defense went to the pros and got drafted. So, but here I am, a freshman. I'm coming in, and it's the first day of practice. My coach is Jackie Sherrill, and we flex and stretch, and wow, he calls everybody up in circle. I don't know. I just run up there and follow everybody else. I don't know what's going on. He calls my name. Moff, get out here. What? They push me in the middle. I get in the middle. Covert, get out here. What are we doing? Get down, son. So, okay, let's go. What are we doing? No one told me the rules here. He stands behind me, gives a snap count. I get blown off, get blown through the circle. My defensive guys are picking me up, pushing me back in. I'm looking through my ear hole. They're pushing me back. Let's try this again, right? Anyhow, this went on for a long period of time. Almost every practice throughout the course of my freshman year, I always had to start practice in the middle. I didn't want to go to practice. I'd be in my dorm or be eating lunch and saying, I got to go to practice, man, and I got to go through this again. And, you know, you had to get yourself psyched up. You had to get yourself ready. You had to, all those things it takes to battle, compete, and win. And to do that, snap after snap, day after day, and this went on. And I honestly thought they wanted to run me off. I thought I was quitting. You're saying you have to hit rock bottom before you can go anywhere, right? I thought, what does he want? Did you want my scholarship? I mean, I didn't know. And then there was one day I came out there and I couldn't take it anymore. And literally, I think I blacked out because I got out there and I was in a state of mind that I got to do this. I'm going to end this now. And I went out there and literally I ended it. And I started and I threw him down the ground, pulled the helmet off, and boom, boom, boom. And I think I was blacked out. I went crazy. I'd had enough. And no, I'm not kidding. This happened.
Was months and months of in the bull.
It was building,
Yeah.
and it erupted.
Bull in the ring.
And it
That's what they
erupted.
called it, right?
By the time I came out, the defensive coordinator, I remember, he's around my neck yelling, Moss, I love you. I love you. and after that, all of a sudden, I wasn't getting called out in the middle anymore. Mm-hmm. But Jackie Sherrill, coaches see something in you that you don't see in yourself. And a lot of kids, you know, they grow up and say, oh, the coach doesn't like me, or I'm not playing. They go home and complain to their parents or something. A lot of times they see something that they need to push you where your parents haven't pushed you beyond where you think you can go, or how good or how great you can be. They see it. I had the size, I had the strength, I had the speed. I didn't have the mentality to focus in and play with that kind of intensity on a down-to-down basis for 4 quarters. And at what time was I going to quit or give up because I had had enough and we're down by 7, right? And so forcing that mentality, that was the time I went from being a player to being a pro, so to say, and being able to do that and dial into that connect. This is what I have to do today. When I go to practice, this is where I have to be. I know where I have to be. I know how long I have to be there. And that carried over to the games, and it carried on, you know, through a long professional career. But that was a turning point for me and the push. And to this day, Coach Sherrill still stays in touch with me.
I love the time I went from being a player to being a pro.
Yeah.
I did that I was at Krispy Kreme when I did, but
You know, I think there's one thing in common with all of that and what we were talking about and that hyper focus. I think it comes from our siblings.
yeah, maybe so.
That just came into my mind. I'm sitting there. We all got siblings. We all got in fight constantly all the time. And here we sit.
Well, that's what it is. It's fun to watch somebody who has a passion and just a professional ability at their. I mean, that's why people fill the stands. That's why they come.
I watched it again today with him flipping. I'm flipping the exact same bait in the exact same spots, and he pulls 2 of them out, and I'm like, I'm never going flipping with you again. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, how are we doing the exact same thing in the exact? And he'd be like, hey, throw in that one, flip in there. Nothing. He flip in there.
You know, I remember.
I don't understand it.
Well, it's simple. I remember going to throw the first pitch out in the Houston Stadium for the Astros, not in the Astros Stadium for another event, and I didn't get it to the plate. And you do every.
You bounced it?
Well, I don't.
Throw it over the net
Let me
next
rephrase
time.
that. I didn't throw a strike. How's
Well, a
that?
strike's fine. But you can't bounce it.
And it probably lobbed in there.
That's
So how do
fine.
you do it?
Just don't bounce. If I were you, I'd just do the Bill Murray. Throw it over the net. Then it's
Okay.
like a joke. It's fun. And
So that's
can't
why.
lose.
So that's
play.
why
Yeah,
you
it's a safe
called.
play.
That's why you called 2 at the end, because you were just out there throwing Hail Marys and you caught 2.
yeah.
Now, Bill, I've got to ask this question. What's the hardest hit you either received or dealt in your NFL career?
I'm going to bet he dealt that one.
I just,
It probably
whichever
hurt
one.
him too,
It's
but-
you can either have dealt it or felt it.
Yeah.
Whichever one. You
So-
got one?
There was a running back then, Icky Woods in Cincinnati. I don't know if you remember him. He was a big guy, and
The Icky Shuffle, wasn't
yeah, and they ran a dive up the middle, and I shed the block real well. I stepped in there, but got my foot tangled up with the guy's knee just as I was about to wrap. So I didn't have the drive for the tackle. Well, he lowered his head and shoulder pads, man. And
he made you do the icky shuffle.
Cancel Christmas.
That was let me tell you.
That's why
was
you
something.
felt it in your soul.
No, it went right through me. Let me tell you. It went right through me. And there was a dude, there was a guy, Eric Martin. This wasn't a hit, but there was a guy, Eric Martin, played for guard for the Chargers. And he was, at that time, he was about 345 pounds. And
Beast.
I'm over his, they call it 3 technique. I'm over his left shoulder, his defensive tackle. And I get to push upfield like this. And here comes the play this way. And I'm pushing and driving. And our feet get tangled up. And I'm going like this. And it goes to the ground. And 345 pounds of his knee go right into my ribs. Pop, pop, pop. That wasn't a direct hit, but it was a crushing blow. Let me just tell you that, man.
Slow to get up after that one.
Yeah. And then the hit part, Bo Jackson, he wrote about me in his book, Bo Knows Bo. We were playing the Raiders one time at Arrowhead Stadium. And I come around the end, and he's there to pick me up as a blocker for the quarterback. And, man, I hit him so hard, his body actually lifted off the ground. He went flying in the air, and I went straight through and hit the quarterback and caused a fumble, turned the game around a little bit. We won that game. But he noted that in his book, that it was hard as he'd ever been hit.
Awesome.
I do not want to be the receiver of or dealt or felt either one of those. I don't want to be there.
Bo Jackson is one of the most superb athletes that ever was born.
Great guy. I used to hunt with him down at the Buckmasters Classic here in Alabama, in Montgomery. And they, a lot of like this stuff, the Unified Pros and getting together and bringing everybody together. They had everybody. I mean, Davey Allison, Dale Earnhardt. They had musicians. They had baseball players. Boggs was down there. He's a funny dude, man.
Oh, crazy.
But yeah, we'd hunt down there and deer hunting. It was a great time. So this kind of reminds me a lot of that, where a lot of people come together for the same cause.
All right. Well, I got a great story about the greatest storyteller that ever lived. This is Jesus, and it's in this Bible. It says the rich man. I'm gonna read a few verses here. Someone came to Jesus with this question: "Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life?" "Why ask me about what is good?" Jesus replied. "There's only one who is good. But to answer your question, if you want to receive eternal life, keep the commandments." "Which ones?" the man asked. And Jesus replied, "You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not testify falsely. Honor your father and mother. Love your neighbor as yourself." "Well, I've obeyed all these commandments," the young man said. "What else must I do?" Jesus told him, "If you want to be perfect, go and sell all your possessions and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me." But when the young man heard this, he went away sad, for he had many possessions. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "I tell you the truth, it is very hard for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. I'll say it again. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God." That's one of my favorite stories of Jesus. But it's also been the hardest story of Jesus that I've had to try to understand, for a long time. I love reading it, but I'm like, Jesus, why? The guy didn't do it bad. It doesn't say that he was a thief or that he stole the money or he did it wrong, but he had a lot of possessions. Is Jesus saying you shouldn't have a lot of possessions? And I've never understood it. 2 days ago, I had a conversation with a guy, and we started talking about that passage. But the conversation before that is what helped me understand that passage. What Jesus wants to be in all of our lives is the sole source that we rely on for everything. Not just our eternal life, but in this life. He wants to be who we turn to for everything. And so what were those possessions? It wasn't that it was so much money or the barns were so big or whatever that Jesus was saying. He was saying that you're still relying on your worldly possessions for all of your security. You're thinking that I have peace and I have security because I have these things. And Jesus is saying that you'll never understand and trust me as long as you have those things. So if you'll get rid of them, you will find true peace and security. I'm going to be honest, a lot of my life I have chased the worldly peace, the worldly security. I went back to school and graduate school to get this job to make the money that I thought would give me that security to take care of my family, wouldn't have nothing to worry about. But it's false. When I got to the end of that, and it's not about the job or the people, the job was awesome, the people were awesome, but it didn't hold what I knew that it was going to have on the other side. And it didn't allow me to have the things that I really enjoy in life. But when I gave that up and started pursuing him, when I sold the possessions and all that, and so he gave me not only what it couldn't give me, true peace and security, but he gave me more time to do things that I enjoy. Look, I'm here now. I'm here with people I would have never met, doing things that I never could do, all because with his help, not because of me, I was able to give up my pursuit of those things and do the other. And so that's the message. That's the message Jesus has for us, is the world is got a nice mirage set that it's going to give you peace and happiness, but it's not found anywhere but in him. And you've got to give it all up and give it to him and look for him there.
Yeah, I think you got to think about the intent of your heart. We all talking about siblings earlier. The intention was never really to harm them. It was kind of more or less to
Entertain us.
Yeah.
No, there was a lot that was
Speak
done for
yourself,
harm.
right?
It was done for harm and satisfaction, and
All of
that's
the
where we
things.
got that laser focused. I
The
swear.
laser focus come from that, but the intent of our hearts has to be and that's what Jesus wanted you to do. And I don't think he ever really intends you to just sell everything, because he understands you got to have money to live. You got to be able to buy food and buy clothing and have a place to live and things like that. But if you are saying that that's more important than Christ, that's where, and you can say that and your intention of your heart not be the same, but everything's got to line up correctly.
Well, I just want to thank you one more time. I'm sitting at the dock. Let's give that. We forgot
Yeah,
to.
the dock,
So the dock, thank you guys for allowing us to be back here on this patio. Beautiful scenery, and we appreciate that. But I just want to tell you, you guys have gotten to do something in your life that I always wanted to do. Man, as a kid, I always dreamed of being a professional baseball player. As I got older, I wanted to be a professional angler, and I would have loved to play professional football, but I knew that wasn't in the cards for me.
Didn't have quite the size.
I didn't have the size nor that grit to rip somebody's helmet off and just make them pay. But anyway, but thank you. I appreciate y'all taking the time to sit down here with
Thanks
us.
to Unified Pros as well. That's one reason we're all together.
That made the day
Because-
possible.
Yeah.